The death of Emily Preston. In the chaotic, blood-soaked pages of Deadpool, there are few constants: violence, absurdity, and one-liners that'll either make you laugh or groan. But then came Agent Emily Preston, a SHIELD agent with brains, grit, and an ironclad sense of justice. She wasn't just another government suit, she challenged Wade Wilson. And in doing so, she became something unexpected: his friend. Their story takes a turn in the arc where a necromancer named Michael decides America is broken. His solution? Resurrect every dead US president? Because who better to fix America than the men who built it? But that caused a problem. The problem? Zombie George Washington, Abe Lincoln, Nixon, and the rest aren't exactly returning with liberty and justice for all. They're evil, rotting, and out for domination. Now, calling in the Avengers is a PR nightmare. No one wants to see Captain America decapitating historical icons. So SHIELD brings in someone expendable: Deadpool. During a showdown at the Lincoln Memorial, Deadpool and Preston face off against zombie Ronald Reagan, who's gone full Terminator, lasers, robot suit, the whole shebang. In the chaos, necromancer Michael attempts a desperate soul-binding spell to trap Reagan. But it goes horribly wrong. Instead of snagging Reagan's soul, the spell grabs Agent Preston's. She dies instantly. Her body collapses. Reagan explodes. And here's where it gets twisted. The spell doesn't finish. Her soul doesn't pass on immediately, and it also doesn't vanish. Instead, it ends up trapped inside Deadpool's brain. Now Preston is a ghost in the loudest, weirdest, most violent head in the Marvel Universe. And she's aware. Completely. Imagine being a disciplined, justice-driven SHIELD agent, forced to cohabitate with Deadpool's chaos brain. It's not just surreal, it's painful. She's a mother, a hero, and now she's stuck riding shotgun with the Merc with a mouth. Wade, for once, doesn't laugh it off. He feels guilt. Crushing, painful guilt. For maybe the first time in his comic book history, Deadpool starts to change. He becomes accountable. Because Preston isn't just a voice in his head, she's his conscience. This launches the Soul Hunter arc, where Deadpool bargains with Mephisto, the literal devil, battles necromancers, demons, and occult nutcases, and even risks his own soul, all to bring Preston back. And he does it. He actually brings her back to life. But her death meant more than just a story beat. Preston was the turning point. She humanized Wade. She made him care about something bigger than himself. She wasn't a throwaway character, she was the reason Deadpool grew. In the end, Agent Emily Preston is more than a sidekick or casualty. She's a symbol of redemption in a world of chaos. She didn't just haunt Wade, she changed him. And that's a hero's legacy. The death of Shikla. You think you've seen odd couples in comics? Please, let's talk about Shikla, a vampire demon queen from a kingdom buried deep beneath Manhattan, and her doomed romance with none other than Deadpool. Shikla wasn't just some gothic side character. She was the queen of the undead, ancient royalty awakened after centuries in a tomb, powerful enough to command vampires, werewolves, and pretty much every classic monster you've ever seen in a Universal film marathon. Deadpool met her during the Dracula's Gauntlet arc, where, ironically, he was hired to deliver her to Dracula as a bride. But that didn't happen. Instead, Deadpool and Shikla fell in love in the most chaotic, Deadpoolish way possible, and they got married. Yep, Wade Wilson, wedded to a literal demon queen. Their relationship? Passionate, explosive, weirdly tender. She didn't see Wade as a freak. She liked the chaos. She embraced his madness. For once, Wade found someone who got him. But here's the twist. Shikla hated humans. She despised how the surface world treated monsters, hunted them, feared them, drove them into hiding. And while Wade may look like a stitched-up disaster, deep down, he's still human. That rift kept widening until it broke. Then came the betrayal. During the Secret Empire arc, Captain America, under Hydra control, manipulated Wade into handing over secrets, including secrets on Shikla's monster kingdom. It was the ultimate betrayal. Her husband turned into a weapon for the very world she despised. And so, Shikla snapped. She rallied her armies, zombies, vampires, mummies, the whole undead circus, and launched a war on humanity. New York became her battleground. Wade didn't want to fight her. But he couldn't let monsters overrun the world either. Then the unthinkable happened. Deadpool teamed up with Dracula, her ex-fiancé, to stop her. Together, they sealed her kingdom beneath the earth once more. But Shikla escaped for a time. And then, she vanished. No epic death scene, no dramatic sacrifice, just gone. What really happened? We find out the truth much later, quietly in Savage Avengers and Deadpool, Volume 7. Dracula takes over as the new king of monsters, ruling from what used to be Shikla's underground empire. Her throne, gone. Her rebellion, crushed. It's in this time as Wade becomes the new king of monsters that he learns the truth. Shikla died during the war. Maybe it was Dracula's army, maybe it was an assassin. Maybe her kingdom just collapsed around her. No farewell, no panel, no closure, and that's what makes it hurt more. Because Wade loved her, deeply. She was the one person who looked past his scars, his jokes, his insanity, and loved what she saw. Her death wasn't some cinematic end. It was erased, swept under the monstrous rug of a world that never gave Deadpool the closure he needed. No revenge spree, just a quiet, painful truth. Another name on the list of people Deadpool couldn't save. Another love that ended, not with a bang, but a whisper. The death of Cable. If you know Cable, you know he's not your average mutant. He's the son of Cyclops and a clone of Jean Grey, born in a future full of war, raised with a gun in one hand and a time machine in the other. He's a strategist, a fighter, a hardened protector of timelines. And then there's Deadpool, loud, chaotic, unpredictable, the complete opposite, yet somehow they became one of the most unforgettable duos in Marvel Comics. In Cable and Deadpool, 2004 to 2008, their banter was gold, their missions were epic, and their bond? Unbreakable. Or so we thought. Until Cable died. And not just died, he was killed. By himself. Here's how it all went down. In Extermination, 2018, the timeline is in serious danger. A younger version of the original X-Men team has been stuck in the present. Every second they stay risks creating a paradox that could destroy everything. Old man Cable, our Cable, is trying to fix it, but he's grown more thoughtful, more careful with time. That's his mistake. That's when Kid Cable entered the equation. A younger, more ruthless version of Nathan Summers who decides enough is enough. No more delays, no more half measures. He doesn't argue, he doesn't wait. He murders old Cable, just like that. Blast, done, gone. No farewell, no passing of the torch. Just one Cable removing the other because he thinks he can do better. Deadpool doesn't find out immediately, but when he does, it wrecks him. Cable wasn't just another teammate. He was Wade's best shot at being a real hero. The one person who could see past the jokes, the madness, and the mess. So when Deadpool confronts Kid Cable, it's not just a fight. It's heartbreak in motion. He wants answers. He wants revenge. But what he gets is a younger version of his friend saying, "This had to be done." Kid Cable claims it was the only way to save the timeline. The mission came first. The old version was too slow, too human, and that's what makes it hurt more. Why does Cable's death sting so badly? Because it's not a heroic last stand. It's not a cosmic battle. It's cold, efficient, and meaningless. Deadpool loses one of the only people who kept him grounded. Cable wasn't just a partner, he was a symbol of order in Wade's hurricane of chaos. And he was erased by time itself. But it's comics. Does Cable stay dead? Well, not exactly. Kid Cable sticks around, eventually becoming more like his older self. In time, other versions of Cable reappear. The timeline does what it always does, bends and shifts. But the original Cable, the grizzled soldier who shared tacos, missions, and moral lessons with Wade, that guy, he doesn't come back. And Deadpool knows it. Another ghost in the rearview, another friend lost to the madness of time travel. The death of Vanessa Carlisle. Before Deadpool became a walking punchline in a red suit, he was just Wade Wilson, a broke Merc with cancer and one person in the world who actually loved him, Vanessa Carlisle. She wasn't just Wade's girlfriend, she was Copycat, a mutant shapeshifter who could copy anyone. DNA, memories, powers, the works. But with Wade, she didn't need to be anyone else. Their relationship was messy, real, and full of bad decisions, but it was love. Even when Wade got the death sentence, stage 4 cancer, she stayed. That kind of loyalty, rare and terrifying. So he did what scared people do. He ran, joined Weapon X, disappeared without a word. He thought he was doing the right thing, thought leaving her behind would protect her from watching him die. But it didn't. Years later, she tried to start over, living quiet, off the grid, away from all the mutant or mercenary chaos. But secrets don't stay buried. Weapon X resurfaced, hunting down anyone tied to their past. Vanessa? She was on the list. Too powerful, too unstable, and worst of all, too close to Deadpool. So they sent Sabretooth, the kind of monster you don't send to scare people. You send him when you want to make a statement. Sabretooth found her, tore through her world. Wade wasn't there. By the time he showed up, it was over. Vanessa was dead, murdered off panel, no last words, no heroic sacrifice, just gone. Wade held her body in his arms. The woman he left to save, the woman he swore he'd find again. And all he found was too late. That moment broke something in him. He snapped, went full-on revenge mode. Weapon X, Sabretooth, anyone who had a hand in it, he made them pay. But vengeance isn't healing. And Deadpool, for all his jokes and fourth wall breaks, feels everything. He never forgave himself. He couldn't. In the years that followed, Vanessa haunted him. Not literally, no ghost powers. But in his head, in his guilt. He saw her in nightmares, in memories, in all the people he tried to save afterward because he couldn't save her. Unlike other Marvel deaths, hers stuck. No time travel, no resurrection, no multiverse cheat code. Vanessa stayed dead. And in a world where almost no one really dies, that makes her loss hit even harder. She wasn't just Wade's past, she was his anchor, his chance at normal. And her death? It became his quiet reminder that no matter how much he jokes, he's still broken. The death of Ellie Kamacho. Ellie Kamacho isn't just another side character in Deadpool's life. She's his daughter. Born from a brief but genuine relationship with a woman named Carmelita Camacho, Ellie's existence was a secret for years. Wade had no idea he was a father, until fate and chaos brought them crashing back together. By the time he found out, Ellie was already a little girl, and for a man drowning in blood, bad jokes, and bodies, the news hit like a bullet to the heart. Wade Wilson, a father? He didn't think he deserved the title, but he wanted to try. Then came the abduction. Carmelita and Ellie were kidnapped by a sadistic scientist named Butler, a villain obsessed with exploiting Deadpool's healing factor for experimentation. Wade came through, he tore through Butler's facility and saved Ellie. But Carmelita died. And just like that, Ellie lost her mother. Wade knew what came next. He wasn't naive. His enemies would come for her, use her, hurt her, just to break him. So he did the unthinkable. He faked her death, changed her name, and buried his identity. And he gave Ellie a normal life, away from the chaos, the assassins, the costumed freaks, and the endless bloodshed. From afar, he watched, protected her in secret, loved her in silence. But then it happens in Deadpool 2099, a storyline set in the distant future, where Ellie, now an adult and a hero in her own right, meets a grim fate. In this reality, she is confronted by her half-sister Warda, who is a product of an earlier twist in Deadpool's legacy. Warda is not the friendly type. She's an unhinged, destructive force, full of rage and resentment. Now Ellie, having inherited the Kamacho genes, isn't exactly an easy target. She has Deadpool's regenerative healing factor, which means, as with her father, she can heal from nearly any injury. That is, until Warda decides to use liquid napalm on her. This is no ordinary fire. Napalm burns through you, sticks to you, and keeps burning. Ellie's healing factor kicks in, but napalm is a special kind of hell. It burns deep into her flesh, and her regeneration struggles to keep up with the destruction. Her death is a slow, painful process. Her body is in constant pain as it tries and fails to recover from the relentless assault. But here's where things get really tragic. Just as Ellie's healing factor starts to fail, her body finally regenerates. But it's too late. Warda, in her rage, continues the onslaught until Ellie is effectively burned to death. Ellie's death isn't just physical pain, it's emotional too. It's the death of someone who grew up as a product of her father's chaotic world. And despite her resilience, she can't escape the cycle of violence that has followed Deadpool throughout his entire life. The death of Weasel. Jack Hammer, better known as Weasel, was more than just Deadpool's sidekick. He was the brains behind the weapons, the gadgets, and the behind-the-scenes operations. If Deadpool was the muscle in chaos, Weasel was the tech-savvy strategist who kept things running most of the time. He filled a vital role acting as Deadpool's go-to fixer, hacker, and occasional conscience. Their relationship was far from perfect, but it was long-standing. They bickered, double-crossed each other, and patched things up time and again. Beneath all the dysfunction, there was a real friendship, or something close to it. But during the Secret Empire event, everything changed. At this point in the comics, Deadpool is no longer just a rogue mercenary. He's become an Avenger, a public figure, and the leader of his own team, the Mercs for Money. Weasel, though still involved, feels left behind. Wade has the spotlight and the status, while Weasel's still in the shadows, pulling strings without recognition. Resentment builds. Eventually, Weasel makes a choice that sets everything in motion. He begins working with Hydra's version of Captain America, Steve Rogers, whose mind had been altered into believing he was always a Hydra agent. Weasel justifies his betrayal by claiming he was tired of being used. But Wade sees it differently. When Deadpool discovers Weasel's betrayal, he's not just shocked, he's deeply hurt. He confronts Weasel, hoping for some kind of explanation, maybe even redemption. But the conversation doesn't end in reconciliation, it ends with a bullet. Deadpool shoots Weasel, coldly, directly. No grand speech, no jokes. Just a quiet, bitter end to a long and complicated friendship. What makes this moment stand out in Deadpool's chaotic history is how personal it is. Weasel wasn't a villain. He wasn't out to conquer the world, he was someone who felt overlooked and made a selfish choice. For Deadpool, the act of killing Weasel isn't just justice, it's a breaking point. One of the few moments where Wade Wilson, the man behind the mask, shows genuine heartbreak. And in the aftermath, Deadpool tries to move on, he justifies it to himself. Tells others it was necessary, but the guilt lingers. He sees Weasel in memories, in hallucinations. Sometimes he talks to photos. Other times, he stays silent. Unlike so many other comic book deaths, Weasel doesn't come back. There's no magical resurrection or alternate universe rescue, and that's what makes this loss so rare. Deadpool didn't just lose someone, he destroyed the one person who was there from the start. And deep down, even Wade knows, that wound will never fully heal. The death of Evan Saba-Nur. In the Marvel Universe, few names inspire as much fear as Saba-Nur, the ancient mutant known as Apocalypse. A living force of evolution, Apocalypse has long been one of the X-Men's greatest threats. But this isn't his story. This is the story of Evan Saba-Nur, his genetic clone. Born from a legend, raised to be better. Created in a lab and raised under X-Men supervision, Evan was never meant to follow in his predecessor's footsteps. Wolverine, Phantom X, and others in Uncanny X-Force sheltered him, taught him, and gave him a life free from Apocalypse's shadow. Evan didn't want to rule, he didn't want to destroy, he just wanted to be good. He attended the Jean Grey School, he made friends. He laughed at Deadpool's terrible jokes. In a way, Evan was one of the few people who saw Wade Wilson not as a weapon, but as a mentor. And for a while it worked. But in the 2015 Deadpool run, Volume 4, the stakes skyrocket. The Inhuman known as Ulysses begins seeing visions of future events, disasters that could be prevented or caused by the actions of mutants and heroes. In one vision, Evan becomes Apocalypse, the full version. What follows is apocalyptic. The X-Men die, the Avengers fall. Even Deadpool's daughter, Ellie, is lost. The vision sparks a desperate plan. Wade is faced with an impossible decision, one that no teacher, no hero, and no friend should ever have to make. The hardest kill. Deadpool takes Evan to a secluded area under the guise of keeping him safe. Evan senses the tension. Why are we here, Wade? Because I believe in you, but the world doesn't. Wade hesitates. This isn't just a mission. It's a tragedy in slow motion. He's looking at a kid who trusted him, who never asked to be Apocalypse. But Wade's mind is locked on the vision, on Ellie, on the end of everything. He lifts his weapon. One shot, no screams, no final battle, just silence. Evan Sabaner dies believing in the man who betrayed him. But this broke Deadpool, and why? This wasn't revenge, it wasn't war. It was a preemptive strike based on a possibility. Evan hadn't done anything wrong. Wade killed a child who looked up to him because of a prediction, and that's what makes it one of the darkest decisions in Deadpool's history. It fractures what little trust the X-Men had in him. It burns bridges with Wolverine, Kitty Pryde, and Beast. It shatters Deadpool's already fragile sense of morality. And emotionally, Wade never recovers. He avoids Evan's name. He tells himself it had to be done. But in quiet moments, the guilt comes back. Loud. Because when Wade pulled that trigger, he didn't just kill a boy, he killed hope. Evan's death isn't just another tragic moment in Marvel's timeline. It's a powerful reminder of what happens when fear overrides faith, and when a hero crosses a line that can never be uncrossed. Deadpool tried to stop the future, but in doing so, he became the very thing he feared, the villain in someone else's story. The death of Agent Phil Coulson. You see, in the comics, Agent Phil Coulson is much like his MCU counterpart, a loyal S-H-I-E-L-D. A loyal S-H-I-E-L-D agent, calm under pressure, always one step ahead. He's not flashy, not superhuman, but he believes in heroes, especially one, Steve Rogers. To Coulson, Captain America isn't just a man. He's an ideal, a symbol. But ideals don't always survive war, especially when the war is rigged from the start. In Secret Empire, the Marvel Universe hits a boiling point. The Cosmic Cube rewrites history, turning Steve Rogers into a loyal Hydra operative. The twist? No one knows. To the world, Steve is still Captain America, but inside, he's planning a Hydra takeover of the US government. And who follows him into this dark new world? Deadpool. Deadpool is a massive Captain America fanboy. So when Cap asks him to join the cause, he doesn't hesitate. No questions, no doubts. Steve weaponizes Wade's loyalty, using him as a personal assassin. Quiet hits, clean kills, no mercy. But not everyone drinks the Kool-Aid. Agent Coulson notices the cracks and that something's off. Steve isn't acting like himself. Hydra's fingerprints are everywhere. So Coulson digs, finds proof, and realizes the nightmare. Captain America has been compromised. He becomes a liability. Hydra Cap then labels Coulson a traitor. And who gets the assignment to take him out? Deadpool. Wade tracks Coulson to a remote safe house. No explosions, no chase, just two men in a room, one desperate to open the other's eyes. Wade, that's not Steve Rogers. He's not who you think he is. Coulson doesn't fire first. He wants to reach Wade. He still thinks he can. But Wade's been broken down, convinced he's doing the right thing, protecting his hero. So he pulls the trigger. Again and again. There's no wisecrack, no Deadpool joke to break the tension. Just silence. Phil Coulson dies alone, bleeding out, betrayed by the country he served and by a man he once believed in. It's one of Deadpool's coldest kills, because Coulson wasn't a villain, he wasn't a threat, he was right, and he died for it. When the truth about Hydra finally surfaces, Wade is crushed. He realizes what he's done, not just to Coulson, but to countless others during his Hydra missions. The weight breaks him, and no amount of blood-soaked redemption arcs can erase the fact. He killed a good man. Coulson stays dead for a while. Then, in a Mephisto-fueled twist, he returns, resurrected with a dark edge in Heroes Reborn. Now he leads the Squadron Supreme of America, serving Mephisto's twisted plans. The Patriot has become something colder, harder, no longer the man who once stood between the world and its end. And Wade? He carries that guilt like a scar. Some sins heal, this one doesn't.